Behind the scenes of the Roman-Germanic Wars. Chapter 1, Shadows of the Rhine. The year was 9 CE, and the world trembled under the might of Rome. The empire stretched across 3 continents, its legions invincible, its cities unparalleled. Yet, in the shadowy forests beyond the Rhine, a storm was brewing, one that would forever alter the trajectory of history. In the bustling streets of Rome, General Publius Quintilius Varus stood on the marble steps of the Senate, a reluctant hero. The emperor, Augustus, had summoned him for a daunting task: the final pacification of Germania. The region, wild and untamed, had long resisted Roman rule, and Augustus believed that Varus, with his reputation for law and order, was the man to change that. "Varus, you must bring them civilization," Augustus declared, his voice firm. "But remember, it is not enough to conquer their land. You must win their hearts and minds." Varus bowed. "I shall not fail, Caesar." As Varus prepared his legions, far to the north a different scene played out. In a hidden grove deep within the Teutoburg forest, a council of Germanic tribes convened. At their head was Arminius, a young chieftain of the Cherusei tribe. Trained as a Roman auxiliary, Arminius had learned the ways of his enemy, and now he sought to use that knowledge against them. "Rome grows bold," Arminius said, his voice a low growl. "They think us barbarians, but we are warriors. We will show them the fury of Germania." The tribal leaders murmured their agreement, but doubt lingered in their eyes. Arminius had to prove himself not just a warrior, but a unifier. Chapter 2, The March into Germania. The legions of Varus set out from their fortress at Vetera, a sprawling complex on the Rhine. They numbered nearly 20,000 soldiers, accompanied by auxiliaries, engineers, and merchants. The columns stretched for miles, a testament to Rome's might and organization. Among the soldiers was Marcus Tullius, a young centurion on his first campaign. Marcus had grown up hearing tales of Rome's invincibility, but as the column moved deeper into the dense forests, unease gnawed at him. The air was thick with humidity, the canopy above blocking out the sun. The Germanic wilderness was a far cry from the orderly streets of Rome. "Stay sharp," Marcus whispered to his men. "The forest hides more than shadows." Unbeknownst to Marcus and his comrades, Arminius was watching. From the ridge above, he and his warriors studied the Roman column, noting their movements, their vulnerabilities. "They are overconfident," said Segimur, Arminius' second in command. "We can strike now." "Not yet," Arminius replied, his eyes cold and calculating. "Patience is our weapon. We will lead them deeper, where the forest itself will fight for us." Chapter 3, Whispers of Betrayal. As days turned into weeks, the Roman column pushed further into Germania. Varus, believing the region pacified, was lulled into a false sense of security. Arminius, ever the loyal auxiliary in Varus' eyes, fed the general false intelligence about a tribal uprising further east. "We must act swiftly," Arminius urged. "If we do not crush this rebellion now, it will spread." Varus nodded. "Then we march." "Lead the way, Arminius." Marcus Tullius, however, was not convinced. He had overheard conversations among the Germanic auxiliaries, whispers of betrayal and blood. One night, as the camp settled under a crescent moon, Marcus approached Varus. "General, I fear we are being led into a trap," Marcus said cautiously. Varus frowned. "Marcus, you are a fine centurion, but you let fear cloud your judgment. Arminius is a trusted ally. Germania is vast, and mistrust will only divide us." Reluctantly, Marcus stepped back, but the unease in his heart remained. Chapter 4, The Ambush. The fateful day arrived under a leaden sky. The Roman column, now deep within the Teutoburg forest, found itself hemmed in by the dense undergrowth and towering trees. The path narrowed, forcing the soldiers into a single-file march. Rain began to fall, turning the ground into a muddy quagmire. Then it began. A horn blared, its sound sharp and haunting. From the trees above, a hail of javelins rained down upon the Romans. Chaos erupted as soldiers scrambled to form ranks, but the terrain made it impossible. Arminius appeared, not as an ally, but as an enemy. At his signal, thousands of Germanic warriors surged from the forest, screaming their war cries. The Romans fought valiantly, but they were disoriented, their formations broken. Marcus Tullius found himself in the thick of the fighting. His sword clashed against the crude axes and spears of the Germanic warriors. Blood soaked the ground, mingling with the rain. "Hold the line!" Marcus shouted, his voice hoarse. But it was futile. The legions, so used to open battlefields and disciplined formations, were being dismantled in the chaos of the forest. Chapter 5: The Fall of Varus. For 3 days the battle raged. By the end, the Roman legions were annihilated. Varus, realizing the full extent of his failure, fell upon his sword rather than face the disgrace of capture. Marcus Tullius, one of the few survivors, was taken prisoner. Bound and bloodied, he was brought before Arminius. "You fought well," Arminius said, his tone almost respectful. "But your empire's arrogance was its downfall." Marcus glared at him. "You may have won this battle, but Rome will never forget." Chapter 6: The Aftermath. The news of the disaster reached Rome like a thunderclap. The Senate was in an uproar, and Augustus was said to have cried out, "Quintilius Varus, give me back my legions." In Germania, Arminius became a hero among the tribes, but his victory sowed the seeds of division. The tribes, united against Rome, now turned on each other, their fragile alliances fracturing. Marcus Tullius, held captive for years, eventually escaped. When he returned to Rome, he found an empire forever changed. The Rhine became the boundary of Roman ambition, and Germania, though unconquered, remained a land of perpetual unrest. As Marcus walked the streets of Rome, he could still hear the whispers of the forest, the cries of the dying, and the haunting sound of Arminius' horn. The Roman-Germanic wars had ended, but the scars they left behind would endure for generations. For Arminius, the triumph over the Roman legions in the Teutoburg forest brought more than glory. It brought challenges he had not foreseen. Germania's tribes, united in their hatred for Rome, were notoriously fractious. Their unity under Arminius had been fleeting, held together only by the threat of a common enemy. As the tribes gathered to celebrate their victory, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Segimer, once Arminius' most loyal ally, now eyed him with suspicion. "You claim to fight for Germania," Segimer growled during a council meeting. "But you fight like the Romans. You think like the Romans. Are we free, or are we trading one master for another?" Arminius' jaw tightened. "I fight for all of Germania. The blood of Rome stains my hands, just as it stains yours. Do you question my loyalty?" The room fell silent, the crackling of the fire the only sound. But Arminius knew the seeds of doubt had been sown. Chapter 8: The Survivor's Tale. Meanwhile, Marcus Tullius languished in captivity. Kept in a crude wooden cage, he watched as the Germanic tribes celebrated their victory. His wounds had healed, but his spirit was battered. Each day, he was paraded before the tribes, a symbol of Rome's defeat. But Marcus was no ordinary prisoner. His keen eyes studied the Germans' ways, their strengths and their weaknesses. He noted their disunity, their lack of discipline compared to the legions. These observations, he knew, could one day be Rome's key to vengeance. One night, as the guards dozed by the fire, Marcus struck. Using a shard of bone, he picked the lock on his cage. His heart pounded as he crept through the forest, the sounds of Germanic revelry fading behind him. After days of traveling, he reached the Rhine and stumbled into a Roman outpost. The commander, a grizzled veteran named Lucius Marcellus, was shocked to see Marcus. "You're alive? By the gods, we thought the forest had claimed you." Marcus, his voice hoarse from exhaustion, replied, "I bring news from the other side of the Rhine. Germania is not as united as it seems." Chapter 9: The Wrath of Rome. Back in Rome, the news of Marcus' return spread quickly. He was summoned to the imperial palace, where Augustus himself awaited. The emperor, aged and weary, listened intently as Marcus recounted the horrors of the Teutoburg forest. Arminius is a formidable foe, Marcus concluded. But he is no Caesar. The tribes cannot stay united for long. If we strike with precision, we can break them. Augustus nodded slowly. Rome does not forgive. We will avenge our fallen legions. Under the command of Germanicus, one of Rome's most promising generals, preparations began for a new campaign into Germania. Germanicus, a nephew of Augustus, was determined to restore Rome's honor. He sought out Marcus Tullius, appointing him as an advisor. "Your knowledge of the land and the enemy will be invaluable," Germanicus said. "Together, we will teach them to fear the eagle once more." Chapter 10: Brother Against Brother. In Germania, Arminius faced a new threat. His own brother, Flavius, who had remained loyal to Rome. Flavius, serving as an auxiliary in the Roman army, was part of Germanicus' campaign. The brothers, once inseparable,